Hi everyone on our Patreon page. This is our patron-only Let's Argue, our monthly patron-only Let's Argue, where we took your hot takes, unpopular opinions, and tough questions from the Patreon page. I responded to the best ones, and that's it. You know what it is. Let's go! Jack Antonoff is an overhyped producer who limits himself in terms of songwriting, drum sounds, and other instrumentals. I swear that half the songs in the new Taylor Swift are almost the same beats he's been doing for the last few years. I'll agree with this to an extent because I think the instrumentals on the Taylor Swift record are very much in Jack's wheelhouse. There are beats and there are grooves and there are instrumental palettes off of his new little Red Hearse project that aren't too unlike some stuff that is on that Taylor Swift record. He just kind of loves pop rock. He loves new wave. He loves synth pop. That's very much his thing. But when Jack Antonoff teams up with an artist whose sound and whose style is not really that deep into those styles of music, whether it be Lorde or whether it be Lana, I'm usually pretty impressed with how far he goes to complement whatever it is they are doing. There is virtually no synth pop at all on the new Lana record, and even though I think the production on her new record is very nice and very tasteful, it's still very much unlike a lot of what Jack Antonoff does, and still shares much more crossover with everything else that Lana does. So I think Jack is pretty good. Maybe he's not like coming through with a super distinct sound, or he's not like kind of on the cutting edge or pushing pop as a medium forward in the same way that someone like, let's say Kurt Ballou has done for metalcore and just heavy music in general. But still, I think Jack is a very good, respectable producer and co-songwriter too, because Jack is also co-songwriting on a lot of these records too that he's producing. So, Jack is a talented guy. I do not deny Jack's talent. You need to put more respect on the man's name. Hannibal Buress is surprisingly good at rapping. I don't know about that. I mean, I've never heard Hannibal Buress drop a flow that was like, oh my God, top 5 dead or alive, bro. But I think a lot of what makes hip-hop good, not all hip-hop, but at least a good deal of hip-hop, what makes a lot of good hip-hop and a lot of good rapping good is that it's clever, it's witty, and comedians have to be clever and witty, and above all else, funny. And if you can write a rap verse that successfully achieves all of those things, you're going to be better than a lot of people out here. Just mumbling their ass off. People should reserve the term banger for hype, hard-hitting, aggressive tracks instead of just using it any time they enjoy a song, even if it's a chill, quiet, slow, and or sad song. Most of the time when I see people calling like a sad song a banger, it's usually done with a hint of irony. However, there are tracks that are low-key bangers, though, like Post Malone's Rockstar. That is not an aggressive track. That track does not hit super hard. It's not a loud song, but it is a banger. It is a banger. Africa Speaks is the best Santana album in 40 years, and you should have reviewed it. Well, honestly, I didn't even know it existed before this post over here, and I tried it out, and it's actually pretty dope. It's like a lot better than Santana's stuff throughout the 2000s and 90s, and it just came out this year, so I'm actually considering reviewing it now, so give me some time. The Unicorns Who Will Cut Our Hair When We're Gone is a brilliant record, but too many people let it overshadow the brilliance of the follow-up, Islands Return to the Sea, an amazing record that is a more mature evolution of the Unicorn sound, albeit missing some of the original lineup. You mean Penner? You mean Alden Penner? Basically the other half of the Unicorns. We're not just talking about like, oh, some of the lineup's gone. No, we're talking about Penner, dude. Penner. I mean, look, the first Penner record past the Unicorns' Clues was pretty good. Islands Return to the Sea is a little bit better. Both records that you should listen to and try out if you love that Unicorns album, but honestly, the material that which you should hear after that point is few and far between. It's unfortunate. Who Will Cut Our Hair is an amazing record, unparalleled in terms of creativity and eccentricity and color and personality, and just odd, freaky, weirdo songwriting ability. It's sad that even members of the Unicorns themselves could not really best it or build upon it in any significant way. It's one of the big tragedies of indie in general. Die Antwoord were ahead of the rap game by 5 years from their explosive, loud trap-style beats, wild internet personas, and terrible tattoos and lyrics. I feel like they would have been bigger if they came out a few years later. Yeah, I disagree. I mean, they never had truly good songs. They never had truly good songs. They were mostly a novelty, mostly a gimmick. On top of it, really shitty personalities, too. I mean, some stuff has leaked out about them recently about like them in a very homophobic way chasing down one of the dudes from frickin' Hercules and the Love Affair. And they were by no means like ahead of the curve on trap music or really anything going on in trap, in my opinion. They were a flash in the pan, a weird thing to gawk at for a little bit, with little to no musical talent, at least displayed in this current group anyway. The older stuff from, I guess, South African hip-hop projects that they were involved with before is actually pretty cool and abstract and funky and neat. But yeah, the DA material generally is boring, and I think has lost even more luster than it originally had, which was not much at first, not much at all to begin with. But now that the joke is kind of over and done with, it's even less funny and entertaining. Do you review one-song albums such as Dope Smoker and Flood differently from other albums? I guess I do, insofar as they are very different in terms of makeup and build. But still, at the end of the day, what I am ultimately gauging is whether or not I am enjoying what I'm listening to, whether or not I am entertained by what I am listening to. Sure, it's a little more difficult to get a grasp of that because generally across pop records with 10 or 15 songs on them, I tend to just like average out each track and say, okay, liked this one, hated this one, thought this one was kind of boring, liked that one, loved that one, loved that one. That's typically how I come about at least an idea, a rough idea for a score before I give an album a score. But I'm obviously not able to employ that on a record that is just one long song unless I go in there and I start separating each section out and judging each individual section. I guess I could do that. But I will leave this question at just the answer yes, generally yes. I wouldn't say that my process when reviewing a one-song album is so different it's like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? But certainly it is a different approach than reviewing a record with just different separate tracks on it. Limp Bizkit was only hated on because Fred Durst openly supported piracy and Napster. The media started to shit on him for bullshit reason about Woodstock 99 to punish him for crossing the line with the corporate executive. I mean, I was around when Limp Bizkit was popular. I don't know exactly who you're talking about hating on him. Is it just the media or people like fans hating on him or them in general? I remember pretty vividly people thinking Limp Bizkit and Fred Durst were kind of cool when they first broke onto the scene, and they had a somewhat unique approach to the whole rap metal thing. But then once their next record came out and Fred Durst was doing way more music videos and way more interviews and looking like really frickin' corny, that's when people started to like raise an eyebrow. And then by the time Chocolate Starfish came out and Limp Bizkit's music was sounding worse than ever, then people really started shitting on and hating the band. Honestly, I think it had more to do with their personalities, just the perception of them being really uncool and not that interesting and overrated, and combine that with the fact that the music was like no longer even tolerable at one point. That's really where I think a majority of Limp Bizkit's hatred was coming from, at least from the standpoint of somebody who was a fan. I wasn't really gauging a lot of the music media going on around them at that point, but I know amongst me and other people who listen to the band, that was kind of the timeline of when people started to either grow out of them or get a little sick of them. Your positive reviews make for more engaging content than your negative reviews. The positive reviews offer more insight into not only the music itself, but your tastes and what ignites your passion. After watching people shout about what they don't like into cameras for years, the positive stuff is just more fun to watch these days. Well, I appreciate that. I can't really agree or disagree with this strongly. It's just kind of your opinion of what you prefer to see in my reviews. And I mean, I love doing positive reviews too. If I do a positive review, that's usually a plus for me personally at the end of the day. It's way less stressful. I get to hear an album multiple times that I think is really good. That usually picks my mood up a little bit. As much fun as you guys have with the negative reviews, and as funny as some of them are in retrospect for me to, look back at them and say, oh man, I was like so brutal on that album, so on and so forth. In the moment, it is usually very obnoxious to have to listen to a bad record over and over and over, and then try to write down and go over what exactly makes it suck. I would much rather talk about something I like or something that I think is good. Steely Dan's discography is required listening for anyone who is a fan of rock music in general. Yeah, I don't see it that way personally. I mean, I don't think they're a terrible band. They're not really for me though, and it really has not been until just recently that they've been considered like this influential force in underground or just modern music. And I would say still to this day that influence is very muted. It's very limited to a certain number of artists that are very popular within the indie scene for the most part. I think as far as blends of pop and rock and even jazz go, there are more interesting artists out there than Steely Dan. The naked version of Let It Be is better than the actual Phil Spector produced original. I won't disagree with this take because it's mostly true, not only because number one, Let It Be is a great song that sounds fantastic in almost any context, no extra instrumentation, tons of extra instrumentation, this producer, that producer, whatever. And also Phil Spector, I think he is an innovator. I think he did hit upon some essential, I guess, formations of sound as far as modern production goes, but still a tad bit overrated. A tad bit overrated. What does some rap songs have that 17 by XXXTentacion doesn't? Good production, actually thoughtful, worthwhile lyrics. It has a complete lack of awful emo folk. It's also not annoying. It also does not have bad singing all over it. I guess sometimes it's kind of jazzy. I guess sometimes it's kind of trippy and surreal and strange and otherworldly, and it really feels like you've entered into Earl's mind. It also doesn't have a really cringy intro where Earl is trying to explain away the point of the album or what people should think or feel or do or say if they don't like the album. Yeah. It has a lot of things and lacks a lot of awful things that 17 has. If you're the Roger Ebert of music criticism, who would you say is the Gene Siskel of music criticism? Honestly, I disagree with the premise from the outset. I don't really know enough about Roger Ebert to think I am the him of music criticism or want to be the him of music criticism. I think if I'm the anybody of music criticism, consciously and maybe even subconsciously in a way, it's definitely the Gary Vaynerchuk of music criticism, which is an odd figure that maybe some of you guys have no clue who the hell he is, and if you don't, I understand that. And right now he's not really doing as much these days. What originally I thought was so interesting about him back in the day, right now he's like a weird social media guru who I think makes money getting big fat checks from Gen X and boomer CEOs to like teach them how the internet works and like the significance of it. And personally, I find no value in that because I'm a millennial. I know how the internet and social media work. I get that. So it doesn't need to be explained to me. But back in the day, and this was after I started the YouTube channel, but I think it gave me new purpose to continue with the YouTube channel because I sort of saw the value in what I was doing through what he was doing. But he had a relatively small brand online where he was reviewing wine. And guys, I don't drink, I don't know shit about wine, but this dude coming on, tasting wine, trying wine, reviewing it, describing it, talking about other scores and reviews on the wine, what made the wine good, where it's from, having all this awesome information about the product that he's talking about right there and either advocating it or crapping on it. I thought it was pretty amazing, and I thought if I could bring that same sensation to music, that would be great. That'd be great. So Gary Vaynerchuk of music reviews. I'll say that. The death of an artist can recontextualize an album, not necessarily for better or worse, but its concept can be made more apparent in terms of the method or sudden nature of it. For instance, Swimming might not be necessarily a better album, but it can be viewed in a new light in accordance to the tragic passing of Max so soon after. While Max's passing hasn't really changed my opinion personally of Swimming, I can say that I have had an experience with this myself in that I enjoyed the new Purple Mountain / David Berman album that dropped this year, and not too long after the release of that record, just before Purple Mountains were about to go on tour, David tragically passed away as a result of a suicide. And yeah, it did recontextualize a lot of very dark tracks about death and about wanting to die on that record for me, and sort of just put them in a new light. So yeah, death of an artist can certainly change your perception of the record, you know, definitely make you reinterpret certain songs and certain messages in a much different way. You're pumping out hella content these days, and I imagine your schedule is lugubrious. My tough question is, how are you doing, man? Are you taking some time to chill? I try to do my best to chill as much as possible, which is not very possible. And, you know, I do take time to listen to some music I'm not reviewing, play some bass, hit the gym, play a little Tetris or some Smash Brothers, spend time with my loved ones, have some good, fun banter with my dude Austin. All of that helps me stay sane and stay on path. You know, some memes as well, kind of fooling around a little bit on the internet. You know, that stuff all helps me decompress and just kind of de-stress. I do need to sleep more. I do need more sleep. I'm not doing enough of that. So I do need more sleep. I should definitely prioritize that. But so far I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right. I'm holding up okay. I'm taking care of myself. Taking care of myself. Got to get more sleep though. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. You're the best. This has been the patron-only Let's Argue, the second one we've done. So success, success, success. Thank you guys very much for supporting the page. And hey, tell your friends to do so as well if you enjoy this content and you think, you know, they enjoy the needle drop and they might want to join up too. And yeah, that's all. Love you. We'll see you in the next one. Forever.